Hey, it's Marley from the Energy Boutique with your energy and ascension forecast for Sunday, October 16th to Saturday, October 22nd. So last week was quite the week. First of all, we had Pluto go direct on the 8th. Then we have the full moon take place in Aries energy, popping off with Chiron, the wounded healer, on the 9th. And then we had Mercury re-enter into Libran energy on the 10th. It was a very intense weekend, a very transformative weekend. Many things popped off that will forever change our reality, ever change the landscape of our lives. And of course, with Pluto representing death, rebirth, resurrection, transformation, and renewal, many of us seen those topics and themes come to life in ways that we really wish didn't. Now, I'll jump into that in just a second because there has been a huge purge, a huge release of souls from this earth plane that have decided to return home one way or the other. Many of us facing a lot of loss over this past week, and many of us facing a lot of our deepest wounds, our deepest fears. And of course, a lot of that is Pluto, but a lot of that was also this full moon in Aries that was very tightly knit with Chiron, that wounded healer. Mercury, of course, re-entering into Libran energy has definitely put a different vibration, a different spin on things. We've been able to kind of process some of these situations in ways that seems like we are just jam-packing years worth of emotional, I'm going to say processing, mental processing, all in a week. And although this Libran energy has us kind of on the fence and kind of indecisive about what it is that we want to do moving forward, the cleanup period that we're currently in, because we are trying to tie up loose ends before we jump into something new, has been a little bit accelerated, let's say. Now, Mercury will be coming out of his post-shadow period this week. That's going to give us a whole different vibe to work with. But having Mercury kind of enter into that Libran energy that we dabbled in very late in August, very early on September, before Mercury actually went retrograde, compounded with Pluto going direct, compounded with the full moon in Aries, has definitely done a number on our mental plane. So this week, now, disclaimer, I'm going to say that this is a quote unquote quiet week. Why? Because there's not a lot astrologically popping off. However, this is the last week of Libra season. This is the last week of Saturn being retrograde. This is the last week of Venus being in her place of power in Libran energy. This is the week where we have the last quarter moon in Cancer energy, its place of power, taking place on the exact same day within hours of Mercury finally busting out of his post-shadow period where we enter into brand new territory. Now, usually when I say that it's going to be a quiet week, we usually have a whole lot popping off in the cosmos with solar flares, with CMEs. We usually see a highly active Schumann resonance, although the Schumann resonance hasn't been the same ever since the 10-day blackout. I may talk about that in just a bit as well. But what I am getting at is that the last week of Libra season, we've been struggling to find balance. We've been struggling to find peace. We've been struggling to find harmony. We've been having to dabble in the dark side, and then we come back to the light. Then we tip the scales in one direction. We try to rebalance them in another way. This week, those topics and themes will be intensified. Venus is the ruler of Libra season. Venus is in her place of power in Libra season, and Venus has a lot of very important interactions taking place this week that we will dive into. This is going to be a heart chakra week. We have been in, I'm going to say the last couple of weeks has been about the throat chakra, speaking our truth, getting our ideas, getting our emotions in alignment within ourselves, really fine-tuning that internal narrative before we go ahead and we start kind of releasing our inner realm to the outer realm that needs to hear it. We are moving into a week where, keep in mind, Libran energy acts as a mirror. So when we are kind of in the realm of people that are tapping into good energies, we will mirror back those good energies. When we are being triggered and activated in our external realm by the not so nice parts, the not so nice thoughts and feelings, we will be mirroring that back, all in efforts to find a happy medium to process the light with the dark, the good with the bad, the power with the pain. And Lord Jesus knows many of us have had a lot of situations and circumstances thrown at us as of late where we are definitely feeling the waves, the peak of the waves, the crash of the waves, the peak of the waves, the crash of the waves. Keep in mind, water is healing, it's transformative, it's cleansing, it is attempting to erode us, if you will, to a place of raw, vulnerable state so that we can get very real with what we're about to essentially create in our lives. Now, this week is going to feel very intense on our heart space. And keep in mind that the goal of Libra season is to find happiness and joy and pleasure. And yes, balance, peace, and harmony, all those lovely things, but we don't find that very easily. We have to sit in the funk, sit in the darkness, sit in the extremes in order for us to gain perspective and understanding on what actually matters, what we actually value, what is actually worthy of our time, our energy, our love, our attention. It has not been fun. It will likely continue to not be so fun. But what we know to be true is that as we kind of close one chapter out, close one season out, and prepare to jump into another, that there are always epiphanies. There are always silver linings, even from the darkest of circumstances. And I hope that after tonight's chat, we'll all be able to kind of put into perspective some of the not so nice thoughts and feelings and circumstances and situations that have been thrown at us, and that we're able to see where the life lesson is, where we're able to pluck out a new silver lining for us to hold on to, and where it is that we can identify new powers, new strengths within us. So before I jump into that, I just want to thank you for being here. I want to thank you for tuning in. I want to thank you for being in the chat. I want to thank you for liking, for sharing, for commenting. I cannot thank you enough for being here. Your love and support makes my freaking day every single day that I see the kindness, the love, the encouragement that you all send me in the comments, in my DMs. The love is overwhelming. And I hope that being part of this community, that you feel, first of all, like you're not alone. And second of all, that there are people here that are of like mind, that are going to connect with you. It's an amazing thing that we're all strangers, but yet we are soul family. And that's why we are connecting in this little community. That's why Fridays are so exciting, because we all get to kind of connect with one another, remind ourselves that we're not alone, get a little bit of a renewal, a little bit of a pep talk in our spirit back in order to set us up for the week that we're about to have. So I want to thank you for being here. I want to thank you for those of you that have jumped over to my Patreon, that are now getting the notifications that you should have been getting all along. Patreon is definitely where I'm putting my time and my energy. I've decided I'm going to start kind of making Marley Rants episodes. My rants seem to be a little bit popular, and talking about some of the topics and themes that I can't really talk about on this platform seems to be the thing to do. So I am going to be concentrating my time, my energy on building a little bit of a library of some audio podcasts, if you will. And I hope to be able to launch that prior to my birthday, November. So I always kind of push in the last month prior to my birthday in order to create something new and give back in new ways. And I think that's where I'm going to put my time, my energy, and my focus. So I want to jump into this week's Ascension symptoms. However, I am going to go on a rant. I have things that I need to talk about. I have things that I need to cover. I have things that I need to share. And I'm pretty sure that in doing so, I'm going to trigger and activate some of y'all in both good and bad ways. And you know what? That's okay. I'm here to act as a catalyst to crack you wide open in order for you to get real with yourself. So I guess being the trigger and activation for other people's healing journey isn't a bad thing, except for those that come at me with a lot of bull caca that I, with your guys' love and support and reassurance and encouragement, am learning not to give so much power to. This week, I want to talk about death, and I would have thought that we would reserve talking about death for Scorpio season, seeing that Scorpio season is about death and rebirth and resurrection and transformation. However, things have just been popping off, and I feel like we can't wait. We have to talk about this now. Now, the reason why I want to talk about it mostly is because if you joined me in last week's live chat, you may have noticed that I was struggling last week with yet another death. Now, you may not have heard it in my voice because that particular session was recorded before I found out that a very, 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 very important person in my life was taken by the hand of another. If you've been with me for any amount of time, you would know that 2022 has been an absolute asshole to me. This is my 5th death and my 3rd murder. And I have been having a very hard time, spiritually speaking, trying to understand what this is all about. And it's really been challenging my set of beliefs, my understanding of the cosmos, of soul contracts, of predetermined death dates. It has definitely put a whole monkey wrench into what it is that I was understanding to be true by my own experiences, by my own spiritual journey. Now, what I've been noticing is that there has been a huge influx over this past week and a half of souls leaving, whether they are leaving on their own accord or by the hand of another, whether they are leaving according to their birth chart and their predetermined death date, or whether their time has been cut short. Regardless, it doesn't matter. The point is that there has been a huge wave of people choosing to return home, choosing to return to source, either by their own free will or, like I said, other people's. This includes animals. And I've noticed just in my client list and in my friends, there's been a lot of loss. And even for somebody like myself, who I felt had a good understanding of death and, being able to speak to spirits, I've definitely had an upper hand trying to understand the process. But, after 5 losses just this year, not adding the 2 that I had last year, but really kind of putting in perspective the 3rd murder, God, I never ever wanted to know anyone that was murdered. And here this year, I'm on my 3rd. And it is absolutely disturbing to me that the world is at the point where we are seeing this ugliness, even though I understand that it is part and parcel of the purge that we're going through. I know that the darkness is desperate to hold on to whatever power that they can, because they know that the light has won in other realms, and they are absolutely just struggling with the concept that, the Christ consciousness, if you will, has been permitted to enter into the ethereal realms once again, and therefore the residual effect of that being the Great Awakening and channeling this unity consciousness, this Christ consciousness, onto the 3D earth plane. So I get it. I understand. Doesn't make it any easier to accept. Doesn't make it any more, any more valid for me that this is happening. I hate to see anybody go through pain and suffering, and the amount of pain and suffering that I have had to witness within my own life, and of course within the people that this is directly happening to in their lives, has kind of taken me to a broken point of questioning a lot. Now, one thing that I have learned, and I will probably go into a little bit more of a detailed rant about this in my new series, in my new podcast series on Patreon, but I always understood that we had predetermined death dates, and that, to a certain extent, we were here to have certain experiences and hope for full completion for particular life lessons. And I also understood that we had 3 particular exit points that was written into our lives, into our birth charts, just in case the soul decided at certain points of the life that, you know what, this isn't working out. This isn't the best use of my time. I want you to think of playing Super Mario back in the day and realizing that you kind of effed up. You missed some boxes. You missed some opportunities to level up. So you stand there and you make the executive decision to basically jump down the hole and end it so that you can start over. That, I know that sounds a little bit silly, but it is pretty accurate to what we actually have power and control over when it comes to our lives, our soul life lessons, and the opportunity to, you know, to take advantage of the exit points that our higher self created and embedded in our experience before we got here. But lately, I've been noticing that a lot of people are passing before their predetermined death date. And a lot of things have been happening that shouldn't be happening. And what I say shouldn't be happening is that, you know, there is timelines, there are visions, there are specific events that need to happen in order for particular timelines to be played out and for certain situations to actually take place, because that is the evolution of the consciousness, not only in our individual lives, but in the collective as well. And what I've been noticing is that as the matrix has been crumbling, as the matrix has been basically destroyed and crumbling in front of our very eyes, what has been happening is that there are, I'm going to say, openings of opportunity for the dark forces to be able to kind of flex a little bit more power than they should have. And let me just be clear, I do believe that everything is going exactly as it should, even when certain things aren't meant to happen. There is going to be a rebalancing of karma to balance those things out. I think that we are in a state of creation where even the bad things need to happen in order for there to be redemption, for there to be a karmic rebalancing of those particular situations and circumstances. But as the matrix is crumbling and as these little loopholes open up for situations to take place that aren't supposed to take place, it is creating a ripple effect, not only in our realm, not only in our state of consciousness, but in other realms as well. And we talk about this pretty much weekly when we talk about the state of affairs going on in our dream states. Many of us tuning in right now to this conversation are astral warriors. We are light warriors. We go to sleep at night and we fight battles in other realms. It is very real. This isn't just foo-foo. This isn't just imagination. This isn't just made up stuff. And we can definitely piece together by some of the experiences that many of us have been having as of late, that the astral realms, the ethereal realms, all the other dimensions are kind of changing very rapidly. And of course, we're seeing those changes be manifest on this physical realm. We have to understand that this physical realm is the lowest density, the heaviest density that, you know, any state, any dimension is actually created in. We are under the matrix of the construct of time and space, which means that it takes a lot longer for things to manifest here than they do in other realms. And those of us that are able to access the other realms are watching that landscape change very quickly. And we're seeing the repercussions of that eventually here on the earth plane. There is a ripple effect taking place in the consciousness and the creation of New Earth. And because I know for sure, because I can speak to the other side, I can speak to higher forms of intelligence that we are, and I can speak to spirits as they cross over, that there are a lot of spirits that are essentially being removed from this earth plane before their predetermined death date. And this is really messing a lot of things up. It's messing a lot of things up as far as seers go, because, you know, we are able to kind of see the path, the journey, the energy that we are traveling into as far as New Earth goes. And as somebody that has been able to see glimpses of the future for many, 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 many years now, what I've noticed is that the time or the ability to see way far in the future has been minimized. And I do believe that that is because we are essentially writing a brand new storyline each and every single day. May I remind you, we have never been this far in humanity's experience. We have never been this far in the collective consciousness. We have never been this far in the spiritual battle, the spiritual war that we are currently going through. And for that reason, we are essentially writing the future each and every single day. And I guess what I'm getting at is that I've really had to struggle with understanding how certain events can take place when they're not meant to happen. And it's been tough for me, especially with this last death that I'm currently dealing with. I'm really having a hard time with it. And I'm grateful that I'm able to, communicate with higher realms in order to try and work through this understanding. Because at a human level, this just sucks. It just doesn't make sense. It's not fair. There's a lot of anger, a lot of frustration that is connected to the human experience in this 3D realm. But again, you often hear me talk about the fact that we have to channel these lower vibrations and frequencies and remove them from our cellular memory in our physical bodies in order to reach the higher forms of intelligence, the vibrations and the frequencies. And it's very hard as a light worker to constantly be kind of jumping back from one realm to the other, constantly walking through this earthly experience with one foot in this earthly experience and one foot in the other realms. And it has been very challenging. I will say this year has been very challenging for many people, and my heart breaks every single time, I get a message or a DM or a comment that is basically somebody with their heart completely broken because of the loss of, their friend, their parent, their brother, their sister, their cat, their dog, whatever the case may be, even children. Now, it's hard to fathom. It's hard to process, even those of us that know that, this is just a simulation and that when you get removed from this earth plane, it's because you've graduated in some kind of way and that you do get to live on in other realms. I have that understanding. I've died myself. I've gone there. I've been brought back. I get it. But it still triggers certain thoughts, certain feelings, certain situations on this earth plane that has a ripple effect that will eventually impact a different ending for a lot of our soul's path, a lot of our soul's purpose, a lot of our soul's mission. And light workers who are on the earth at this time, as grid keepers, as light warriors, as anchors, as the grid itself, we, I think, are understanding that we are kind of facing situations, timelines, storylines that we weren't planning on. And we're kind of winging it right now. And it doesn't feel good to wing it. And especially with facing the weight of the world right now, the shadow part of the collective. May I remind you, we are in Libra season. Everybody thinks Libra season is happy and fun and laughing and love and beauty and pleasure. And that's the positive parts. But Libra season is the very first energy in the zodiac wheel that we actually dip our toe, dip our foot into the other realms of existence. And that means shadow elements. That means pain. That means trauma. And we do have to dabble in those darker topics and themes in order to find a brand new light. We do have to sit in that kind of pain in order to find a brand new power. So it isn't, I guess, uncommon or unheard of that we are kind of dabbling into these topics and themes so early on. I would say early on because I do expect the bulk of this to happen in Scorpio season. But I think that because we entered into the equinox when the sun first moved into Libra season, because we had 6 planets in a retrograde, because it was pretty much all Earth energy, and we are essentially rewriting and reviewing a lot of our life lessons and a lot of the storylines that we came here to actually experience, I think that we are entering into this processing way earlier in the season than what it is that I would have expected. Now, talking about processing, your head might feel like it's going to explode. Your heart might feel like it's beating out of your chest because we are processing a lot of these darker topics and themes at a very accelerated rate. Again, Mercury re-entering into Libran energy is trying to wrap things up before we enter into brand new territory, which will take place on the 17th. I'll talk about that in just a second as well. But the death point, what I want to just kind of wrap up here is that it hurts and it sucks and it's not fair. And it can really do a number on your head and it can do a number on your heart. And it may take a lot of time, a lot of energy in order to arrive at a place which we can essentially accept these circumstances, these situations that should have never happened. And we're in Libra season, and that's what it is that we have to try and make peace with life. We have to try and make peace with certain circumstances that we wouldn't have chosen. This is an ability of ours that we need to kind of be pushed into, realizing that we have through some of the greatest pains and the greatest struggles. And of course, loss is essentially the greatest struggle that we can deal with. And losing people and losing pets and losing yourself and losing your job and losing your home and losing the possessions that you've worked so freaking hard to accumulate is what kind of creates the crack in our identity system that we are currently trying to reinvent and rebrand. We've been doing this with Chiron being retrograde in Aries for quite some time now. And Chiron meeting up with the full moon in Aries on the 9th was super, super painful, but it also led to rapid healing as well. And we are going to continue to move through the stages of kind of reconciling those wounds and that pain with the silver linings that we have to pluck out, the power that we have to pluck out from that pain in order to push forward and essentially boss up and take control and take power and authority over our lives. And I come to you this week with a broken heart. I feel like I've had a broken heart this whole freaking year. Just when you say that you can't take enough, suddenly you get thrown a little bit more. And I'm really starting to question how much one person can actually take before you actually do crack. And I don't know what that looks like. I'll let you know when I'm there. I'm not quite there yet. I do believe that we're all a lot stronger than what it is that we give ourselves credit for. It's just unfortunate that we have to deal with such painful situations here in this 3D realm in order for us to realize how strong we are, how resilient we are, how much perseverance we have, how much strength we actually have to deal with these crappy situations and actually try to be positive moving forward about, playing our hand the best that we can based off of the crappy cards that we were dealt. Now I want to talk about something else. Yes, it kind of leads into a different perspective of death. Many of us are going through a death of self, and every single time we have a death of a person or a death of an animal or, an ending or a closure taking place in our lives that, alter who it is that we've been and who it is that we will essentially be, that is an ego death. It could be a spiritual death as well. There are parts and fragments of ourselves that are essentially coming to an end. And I want to tie this in a little bit to the fact that, the true nodes right now are on the Taurus and Scorpio axis, which is essentially about death and rebirth, about give and take, about loss and gain, about, I'm going to say destruction and then creation. And I do kind of blame the nodes of the moon and being on this Taurus and Scorpio axis as a Scorpio myself, for the reason of why I've had such a hard time over the past year and a half, especially with loss. And I just feel like we are all getting rocked because the name of the game is to detach from some of the materialistic, I guess, identity sources that we've become too intertwined with. Now, the death of self is probably the most painful one because we don't know who it is that we are. We don't know who it is that we're supposed to be. We don't know who it is that we're going to have to be. And we usually have a death of our ego self through a quote unquote new level of awakening. Now, just because you've been awakened and activated even 5-10 years ago doesn't mean that you don't become activated and awakened ever again. We're constantly moving through the spiral of life. The life lessons that we are here to move through and learn from, they are constantly being activated. Just when you think that you're over something, something else is going to come at you in a different form, but with the same kind of energy, the same topics and themes to make you say, oh my goodness, I thought I was done with this. I thought I had, I thought I had overcome this. I thought I had healed this. I'm going to share a little bit of a situation with you. And for those of you that have been with me for a while, you're going to say, oh my freaking goodness, because at the beginning of this year, I started a very scary, painful dental journey. I won't spend a whole lot of time getting you up to speed, but basically I have a nerve disorder that I kind of accumulated when I had my near-death experience that, of course, put me in the position to have these quote-unquote gifts, although I debate whether it is a gift or a curse, but I digress. There has been a lot of physical challenges that I have faced over this past decade plus, especially trying to learn about the physical body and learn how to repair it using energy medicine, because Western medicine is absolutely garbage. And about 12 years ago, I had a dental experience that absolutely just terrified the F out of me, mostly because my face was frozen for close to 8-9 months after I had that dental procedure. And it brought a whole new level of terror around the dentist for me. So, kind of my fault, but I put off going to the dentist for 12 years. Okay. Finally, I got to a very painful place. There was a lot going on in my mouth that I didn't understand. I tried to work with it with, holistic medicine and energy medicine. It wasn't, getting to the point where I felt like I could heal it on my own. So I had to kind of bite the bullet and go back to the dentist. I ended up having to have multiple surgeries on my mouth. I've had teeth extracted. I've had new ones put in. I've had grafting done. It has been an awful year when it comes to dental issues for myself. And I know for many other people as well. A lot of that is because our teeth are connected to internal organs and chakra systems in our body. And as we're going through this energetic upgrade and we're purging and we're releasing and we're adopting new light codes, of course, there are huge amounts of changes going on in our physical form, in our energetic form. And of course, we're seeing that manifest through dental issues, through our teeth. That's how we learn about our body is, we can pay attention to our teeth and what's going on. So many of y'all have been with me going through this process. And what I will say is that on Tuesday, when I should have been at the funeral of the person that I just lost, that absolutely crippled and devastated me that I couldn't be there, for him, for his presence, for his memory, but also for my best friend, who I'm just absolutely brokenhearted that this situation is happening for her. I should have been able to be there, but I had already scheduled my last and final dental surgery for Tuesday. And so while he was coming to terms with his life and being celebrated, I was facing my greatest fear. Again, in the dental chair. But by this time, I had already had three major surgeries, 4 or 5 visits over this total year. And not that this matters, but we're talking big money here in order to fix this particular problem in my mouth that I couldn't heal myself because of this nerve disorder. The nerve disorder is key here. I'm going to tie this all together. This isn't all about me. I just need to kind of, lay down the foundation in order for you to be able to learn from my situation as well. So I walk in there. Obviously, I am nervous, but I'm not as nervous as I normally have been because honestly, I had been crying for, 4 days over the death, over the murder of my friend. So I feel like an empty shell at this point, and I'm kind of down on myself because I really feel obligated to be at his celebration of life and at his funeral. And of course I can't be there. So there's a lot going on in me. So I finally resolved to myself that, you know what, the needles are the worst part, because as I had this nerve disorder, when they put the needles and the freezing in, it literally sends shock waves through my whole body because my central nervous system is very dysfunctional. It doesn't work right. The brain isn't sending the right messages or signals on how to deal with this pain. And it's a very, very painful thing. Lucky for me, my dental team has been amazing. They've allowed me to do yoga. They've brought in, vibrational music for me and blankets and hot and cold therapy. They've been very accommodating. So, you know what, it has been a very, very weird dental experience. So, I kind of go in there with the most positive attitude that I could possibly have. And I say, you know what, the needles are the worst part. Let's get them in here. Let's get this over with. I'm ready to wrap up this particular chapter. So I get the needles in my mouth, and side note, disclaimer, they're not able to use the normal freezing that they use in normal people because it has epinephrine in it, and I have heart issues, and it constricts the nerve ways, and just a cluster F, very dangerous. So we decided to use a short-acting numbing material that up until this point had done what we needed to do, even though I needed a series of about 10 needles every 15 to 20 minutes in my mouth. That has been just absolutely disgusting. Anywho, they put the needles in me. My face is all swelled up, feels frozen until they go ahead and they start working. I can feel it. And I start whimpering and screaming and saying, no, we got to stop. I can feel this. So we top up the needles. We top up the numbing. We wait a couple more minutes. They start again. I can feel it. I'm beside myself. My body is shaking, because I have a central nervous system. My nervous system is being altered and kind of picked at. And the state of anxiety that I'm in, my body does things that I don't have a whole lot of control over sometimes. And I start shaking uncontrollably. My dentist is very good. His assistant is amazing. They're trying to walk me through it. My breathing, they're trying to apply pressure to my body to distract me from the pain. They're, giving me magnets. They're giving me all the tools that I brought in order to, calm myself in all the ways that I've learned to do with energy medicine. And nothing is working. So he finally sits me up. And I can tell by the look on his face that this isn't good. This isn't supposed to be happening. And he basically says to me that he believes that because of all of the numbing agents that have been put into me over the last couple of months of having to do this work, that my nerves have basically been desensitized to this numbing agent. And although there's nothing else that he can do, adding more numbing will not help, more pain meds will not help, and that this is going to be a very painful process, but we have to kind of grin and bear it and get through it as fast as possible. And I'm a full-grown ass woman here. I try to keep myself together, but I'm not going to lie to you. I went through this whole procedure feeling absolutely everything, being in excruciating pain, shaking my physical body, trying not to disrupt or lockjaw on these beautiful people that are trying to restore my dental health and my smile and do everything that they can to try to make this as easy as possible. But I'm legit, like, there are tears. I am whimpering. I am making noises that I never want to make out in public. And I go through the whole hour-and-a-half procedure feeling absolutely effing everything. This is a nightmare for me. This is my biggest fears coming to life. There's nothing that I can do about it. And I'm trying to put in perspective how, a dental procedure is really nothing compared to what my friend is going through, having lost her father in the way that she did, and the pain and the trauma that, the spirit and the soul of my friend's dad is currently dealing with, trying to process that this happening to him before his predetermined death date and trying to make peace with that. And I have all these things going on, and I'm trying to talk myself out of being a baby, when realistically, I know in my mind that denying myself the fact that this is painful, that this is scary, that this is traumatic, is doing an absolute shit show number on my inner child and on my adult self by denying myself these feelings. So fast forward, I get out of the chair, the dental work is done, beautiful, pleased with the result, just absolutely horrified that I had to go through that experience. I had to calm myself down in order to even be able to walk. For those of you that have been with me, you know that I had to learn how to walk again due to the pain and the injuries that I sustained when they tried to bring me back to life. My stability, for the most part, is good until my body is going through something, and then I really can't trust my legs. And it took me a while to be able to stand on my own 2 feet in order to actually walk my ass out of that dental office. And when I got into my car, I broke down, and I decided to give myself a little bit of a moment to grieve, to sit in the pain, to sit in the trauma, to give my inner child the validation that it was okay to be afraid. It was okay to be scared. Because here's the thing, we would never make a child go through that dental procedure without any kind of numbing. And we sure as hell wouldn't tell that child not to cry. And we sure as hell would tell that child, we wouldn't be telling that child that it's okay, because it's not. It's a barbaric situation of pain and trauma that nobody should have to go through. I don't know how they did it. I don't know how our ancestors did it without a numbing agent of some kind. But I sat in the car and I cried, and I gave my inner child just a little bit of a time to just kind of whine it out. And I gave my adult self a little bit of time to acknowledge that I just went through one of my greatest fears. And yeah, I got through it, but it was awful. And I don't want those memories, and I don't want that experience. And again, another injustice that I feel like I'm facing, another punishment, if you will, that I feel like I'm facing. And I take a look at the clock, and it's only 20 minutes away from the time in which my friend is about to say goodbye to her father and put him at rest, put him into the ground. And this is a whole province away, so I couldn't have been there if I wanted to. But I sat there for a minute, and I cried it out. And I thought to myself, I wish I could be there. And I tried to project my spirit there, even though I was very much in my body trying to allow the pain and the trauma to settle in, so that that wasn't something that I was going to have to work through when those repressed memories and emotions came back. I've been learning the hard way over the past year, for sure, that it does no good to disassociate from your body in a time of pain, in a time of trauma, in a time of crisis, because it comes back on you tenfold, creates those energy blockages that the ascension symptoms that we're feeling are essentially zooming in on to let us know where the emotional and energetic blockages are. And I don't want to continue to contribute to the pain and the trauma that gets locked up in my physical body. I want to process it in the time, in the place in which it's happening, so that I don't have to deal with it anymore. And in that moment, I had this beautiful, very strange looking dragonfly come and sit on my side mirror. And to me, dragonflies are a sign from spirit. And because I've lost so many people this year, when a sign from spirit shows up, I really don't know who it is. I thank all of them. I go down the list. I just say, I don't know who you are, but I'm grateful for you being here. Sometimes I can tap into the energy. Sometimes I know just based on what I'm going through who it is. And I truly believe that it was my friend's dad, my friend as well. He was very close to me, has left a very deep hole in my heart. With his passing and the way that he did pass. And, that dragonfly stayed on my side mirror through the whole drive, the 20-minute drive from the dentist to my house. And to me, those are the signs and the symbols that I need to hold on to as reassurance that I'm not alone, that he knew how deeply I wanted to be there. And because I couldn't be there for him, he decided to be here for me. And I also know that I just went through one of the most scariest and most painful experiences that I never, ever wanted to experience in my lifetime. And his presence with me was a little bit just to get me through. I found out later that from my friend that at the time where they were putting him in the ground, that this beautifully blue, huge looking dragonfly not only came and swarmed her and was in her face, but went and sat on him before he was lowered into the ground. So I wanted to share that story with you to let you know that even though I have these abilities, I have this wisdom, I have this knowledge, that I'm still a human being, that we're still all going through it, that it still hurts, that the pain is very real, that the fear is very real, that the trauma is very real, and that we have the tools and the resources within us in order to work ourselves through these particular struggles, these particular lessons, these particular pains. And I try to treat myself as if I was treating someone else, because we all seem to care and be a little bit more tender and a little bit more understanding with other people versus how we treat ourselves. And that's a lot of shadow work. That's a lot of inner child work, is recognizing that you would never speak to a child the way that you speak to yourself. You would never say to a child to stop crying, to boss up, that it's not that painful, that it doesn't hurt that bad, because you know damn well that those are all lies. We shouldn't be lying to the children, and you shouldn't be lying to yourself. So there's no bright and beautiful inspirational message that I have telling you this story, other than the fact that I'm a human being too. I'm going through it too. We all have the ability to heal ourselves and to heal each other. And regardless of what you're going through in your life, how much pain, how much trauma, how much suffering you're currently bearing on your heart space, that you're not alone, and that you will get through it, and that it will somehow transform you into a stronger person. And they always say, oh, you know, like what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Well, that is a crappy kind of line, because you know what? I'm strong enough. I don't need to be any stronger than I'm at. But at the same time, we are here on this earth plane to go through painful situations in order to push us into our power. And what I will say to you is, I'm as strong as I desire to be at this point. And I know that I'm not done, but I just hope that if you are going through your own struggles, regardless of what that may be, there's no comparison when it comes to pain. Pain is pain. Suffering is suffering. Trauma is trauma. I just invite you to lean into it, to heal it in the here and now, so that it doesn't haunt you for the rest of your life, so that you don't have to deal with it 6 months from now or a year from now, when the subconscious starts bringing it back up to the surface and you don't know how to handle it and you spiral out of control. Stay in your body, work through it, breathe through it, acknowledge the inner child, acknowledge the adult version of yourself, and give yourself permission to sit in the pain, to sit in the suffering, because that's how we are going to heal. It's very important that you do your own inner healing, because that's how we heal the collective. So I know that that was long-winded. I know I spent most of this whole friggin' forecast on talking about myself and talking about my own experiences. But at the same time, I feel like sharing my experiences will help others in some way. And so I hope that you can pluck out a little bit of a silver lining, a little bit of a life lesson, a little bit of comfort and validation and encouragement out of the experience that I just shared with you, and apply it to your own life. What I also want to say to you is that the pain and the trauma have a really weird innate ability to jack up our psychic abilities and to make us more raw and open to the connection of the intellectual universe that, you know, is out there, that isn't here, that we're trying very hard to bring in and to root in on Earth in order to create new Earth. And what I want to say is check yourself, okay? Your senses are probably a lot more stimulated, a lot more hypersensitive than usual. That is an upgrade. Your dream state is probably hella crazy. That is an upgrade. Your heart chakra being more sensitive, easily crying, is an upgrade. We have to understand that we are being cracked open in all the right ways in order for us to truly embrace our powers. And facing our fears and having loss and going through pain and trauma is the number one way that we get cracked open in all the right ways in order for us to enhance our abilities and channel in the information, the wisdom, and the resources that we all have, that we all need in order to heal on this earth plane. We are moving into eclipse energy, so don't fear the eclipse season. We have already had the worst of the worst pop off for us. Eclipse season will essentially reorganize our lives, restructure our lives, and really help sort us out, put things back into the place that they should have been in the first place, that they weren't because of whatever reason. Eclipse season always feels a little bit crazy, all very much like a whirlwind. But just trust that we are being karmically sorted out and situated on the path with new missions and new purposes that we probably won't make sense of as of yet. But we are in the cleanup process right now. We will be moving further and further into this wind tunnel that will carry us into eclipse season. Again, may I remind you, we're wrapping up a whole freaking season this week. We're about to dive into Scorpio season. The Sun and Venus are working very closely together. They will actually be conjunct, wrapping up a 5-year cycle here on the 22nd. We're kind of closing out the last petal that Venus's orbit actually makes. If you track Venus throughout the cosmos, she actually makes the flower of life. And we're about to kind of wrap up this last little flower petal here on the 22nd. And when Venus and the Sun conjunct at a 29 degree, a crisis degree in Libra season, you best believe that we are putting this particular chapter behind us and about to jump into a brand new one. That's why I say Venus is the starring character here this week. Our heart chakras are being ripped wide open, torn all the way down to expose the raw, vulnerable power that we somehow don't know is within us. And because of that, it likely will feel a little bit uncomfortable, but with that comes a lot of grounded clarity. We're going to be getting a lot of signs and symbols and validation manifest over this next week that we are healing, that we're on the right path, that we're making peace, that we're finding balance, that we're sorting things out, that we see a new vision and a dream for ourselves and moving forward. What I would want to say to you as far as the physical symptoms go, heart chakra, man. Heart chakra, throat chakra, definitely popping off. Pay attention to your central nervous system. We have Mercury and Uranus popping off together. That's the lower and higher intellect this week. That's going to bring in a new zap to reset our central nervous systems. Likely will bring anxiety and anticipation and a little bit of restlessness, but then we will feel grounded afterwards. Again, break down, break through. Darkest before the dawn, and then the light shines again. And that's very much what we are heading towards as we kind of close out this week. Pay attention to where it is that you feel dizzy and have a lot of pressure in your head, where it is that you don't feel stable on your own 2 feet, where it is that there is a change in your digestion, a change in your attitude, a change in your eyes, a change in your nails. There's white dots coming up in our nail beds. Pay attention to burning lips. Pay attention to piercing ear ringing. These are all indications that we are going through an energetic upgrade. And most times when we're going through an energetic upgrade, it actually feels like a karmic beat down. And I feel like many of us are definitely going through that and can definitely identify with that. And I just want you to be very aware that there is a underlying presence of wanting to numb, wanting to disassociate, wanting to run away from life. This has the tendency to push us into bad behaviors, of self-sabotage, of drug use, of alcohol use, just to numb ourselves out. Please, please, please take from my story that it is not advisable to disassociate, to leave your body, or to numb out right now. We have to stay present in order to process the trauma, the pain, the suffering, the emotions, the thoughts that are coming at us through this very turbulent time of adjustment. Please know that this weekend is probably going to be highly emotional. The moon is in Cancer, building towards the last quarter moon in Cancer at 25 degrees. We are wrapping up a chapter. We are finding a new grounded, stable, emotional point of safety and security. But of course, we find those particular grounding points through the waves crashing down, eroding away the shell that we have on our heart space in order to expose us to our raw and vulnerable power. It's time to nurture yourselves. It's time to do a little bit of inner child work, adult child work too. Again, take what you will from my experience that, you know what, it's okay to feel scared, to feel the pain, to feel the trauma. It's okay to cry like a baby. It's okay to whimper and cry out in the dentist, okay? It's okay to be embarrassed by the people in the waiting room looking at you when you're coming out wondering what the hell they just did to you. It's okay. Okay. And I know that you're probably not going through the same situations that I am, but take that situation and apply it to your own life, because we're all dealing with deep-seated fears right now. We're all dealing with pain. We're all dealing with trauma. We're all dealing with this cleanup phase that we have to be going through right now in order to prepare us for the new cycles that are about to begin, that will be initiated under eclipse season that we're about to jump into when we enter into Scorpio season at the end of this week. So guys, I do apologize that I didn't spend a whole lot of time this week on the physical symptoms. A lot of them are being carried over from last week's Ascension symptoms. So go ahead and listen to that forecast if you want a little bit more detail or reassurance on the physical symptoms that are coming up for you. But I felt it was just necessary that I share a little bit of my own personal experiences, and of course hope that you can pull from that and apply it to your own life and just realize how freaking strong you are. And you're not alone in this. We're not alone. We're all together. This is why we connect. This is why we come here every Friday night, to align with our soul family and to give ourselves a little bit of a spiritual and energetic boost so that we can face the world and face the challenges that are coming at us in order for us to build this new earth. So I love you. I thank you. I thank you for showing up, not only for me. I thank you for showing up for yourself. I ask you to be kind to yourself. I ask you to give yourself permission to feel the hurt, to feel the pain, to process what needs to be processed so that this doesn't ruin you when your unconscious self, your subconscious self, starts drudging up the past that you didn't deal with in the present moment when it should have been dealt with. I thank you guys for being here. I thank you for the love. I thank you for the support. I thank you for the encouragement. I'm sending nothing but love right back to you. And I hope you have a beautiful, powerful week of transformation as we wrap this cycle up and as we prepare to jump into a brand new beginning. We'll talk to you soon.